In these life-serving podcasts, Bhashkar Perinchery answers questions from everyone seeking pragmatic and effective solutions regarding emotional and energetic challenges, holistic health, and the inner journey.
If there are any questions from those who are participating from here or participating from elsewhere, we start with that.
Do you have any question? Questions can be asked over Spotify or can be sent as voice message over the podcast webpage.
If anything is occupying you and you have the feeling it will be good to consider it more deeply, something is preventing you from just being with the flow, and you feel it will be helpful to look into it more deeply and clear it, so you can bring it up if something is there. If nothing is there, I would like to take some moments to bring the attention to something which is connected with that what is going on in the world in a more intense way, and also how it is all such an interrelated phenomenon. The basic challenge for human being is to become aware of the conflict in oneself between the conscious part and the unconscious part, between that what is coming from your understanding and insight and with orientations to be good, human, rightful, sensible. But then there are the other parts which are also having the program of I want this, I have to have this, I should prove this. And the whole conditionings around the idea of an I which is separate from the whole. So this conflict is what is also to be reflected, or what is seen in the conflict in the world. Because those who have advantage, those who are in an advantageous position, have power, have wealth, they are afraid to lose it. They want to have more of that. They want to have the comfort. They want to not part with anything. And in the unconscious way of going is when one tries to hold to it and fight for it and defend it. But the other part is the conscious aspect which can look at all this, see that everyone is seeking the same happiness, same fulfillment. Everyone wants to be loved and love. Everyone wants to have fun and enjoy life. But when the fear is there that if I don't try to hold to what I have, if I'm not trying to defend, then others will come and overtake, and the challenges seems to be so vast, so difficult. So rather than considering more deeply and understand what is a way to deal with it in a healthy and intelligent way, the tendency is to hold to that and continue in this approach of aggression, violence, hate, revengefulness, condemnation, polarization, and looking down on those who don't fit with their concepts and expectations. And in that way getting trapped in a certain kind of pride that we are better, we are superior. So this is what you can see in the world happening on a bigger level, that is behind all the wars, all the strong conflicts. And that is what is also playing out in the political games, within the countries, within the area of different parties. Some parties look narrowly and just emphasize on the themes which are connected with the fear and the unclarity in people, and trying to feed some answers which apparently look even relevant, but which is not based on the deeper reality, which is not coming from the understanding of how life really is. And then there are all kinds of extremism happening in the world, because one wants to hold to some solution, one wants to imagine that we can control it, we can force it. So whether it is extremists of one kind or the other kind, whether it is religious extremism or political extremism or nationalistic extremism or other kind of cultural groups, you can see the problem behind all this is basically the same. That is, human beings not considering carefully and deeply enough to see what is an answer to it rather than just reacting to it. Of course, the answer is not so obvious, the answer is not so evident. You cannot say, yes, when you do it, that it will immediately have this effect. And that is why it looks almost, for many, impossible to find solutions. And they are all looking outside, as if the things outside has to change. The politicians are responsible, the industrialists are responsible, the rich people are responsible. So everybody is kind of finding someone else as responsible and not seeing what is my answer, how am I feeding to it, how am I feeding to this unconscious fear, unconscious entanglement in the greed, unconscious clinging to the comforts and desires without looking at the reality. That is where our intelligence is required. We have to consider more deeply and see. If one is just looking for a continuation of the same status quo through violence, through suppression, through intimidation, it will not work, because when you suppress people who are suffering from that and push them more into a kind of state of hopelessness, helplessness, and if they are also not looking more deeply, what comes automatically as a reaction is rage, revengefulness, violence. So, those who are in power react to this violence, to this blind, unsensible and destructive process in the same level, suppressing them, forcing them. With the result, it is a continuation of this destructive process. It is something of the spiraling effect when those who are angry, those who are unhappy, those who are suffering, and those who are trying to hold to their power, hold to their convenience, hold to their comforts, clash like that. That is where you have to make a differentiation between cleverness and intelligence. Cleverness is when people are just only trying to act from the ego level, where they just think that what is convenient to us, what is the way to manage it and force it and somehow get it. Cleverness looks like intelligence in a certain sense, but it's based on a one-sided way of understanding life. It's not understanding the fact that the life process is a deeply interconnected reality, whether we like it or not, whether we are conscious of it or not, whether we want it or not. Everyone is part of this wonder of life. Everyone is unique. And it is not that some people have the right to exist and the others don't have the right to exist. Those who understand deeply, those who go into the experiential understanding of their reality, they will realize it and see that everyone is arising from the same source. Everyone has to be accepted and respected and supported to find their way of flowering, find their way of opening and understanding life. But when this deeper vision is not there, those who are in a narrow idea of themselves, having power, trying to suppress those who are apparently not in a position to fight and defend, then it's a question of time when those who feel suppressed, those who feel without any chance, are starting to react out of desperation. And this is what is not deeply considered. Everybody is responsible. And everybody has this potential of conflict within oneself. And as long as we are not confronting it more deeply and understanding it from a careful consideration, we are getting into taking sides and trying to prove who is right and who is wrong. But to really see that everybody has to be supported to find their way in life. We don't need to force anybody. We cannot try to change anybody with our concepts, because that is not the sense behind life. Everybody has come as unique manifestation. Everybody has come for themselves. Every soul is there in unique ways. In order to understand it and understand the significance of it, we have to go deeper. We have to go into a state of understanding. What is my reality? What is helping me to understand and feel the situation of the other? Understanding that the other is like you, the other is also seeking to find a way in life, and the other has to be supported and respected. When in your inquiring into understanding yourself, understanding the way of nature in a deeper sense, you go beyond the law of the jungle, where one is only reacting and fighting blindly, into understanding a human way of connecting to each other, where you see that we need to support and respect each other, we need to care for each other, we need to understand the helplessness and suffering which people are going through. And then you will not go into this polarization. You will see how to create bridges, how to bring in understanding. Your approach becomes that of compassion, that of love, which leads towards clarity and peace. And let me tell you, even if it does not seem to have immediate result, when you orient to that, when you see that this is the reality and there is something of life which we need to consider more deeply, and the only way to respond is to answer from your deeper intelligence, from a quality of looking and seeing what really is. And that is where compassion becomes the basis in your way of connecting. That is where you allow your deeper intelligence to come into the whole manifestation of life. That is where you start seeing the other human beings and other living beings as part of the wonder of life. And that is the direction we need to consciously open to. Because without that, going on in this way, it looks like sometimes one part seems to be the winner, and then the other who is suppressed starts reacting to it and comes massively in another way, and then there is a counter reaction. But in our period where the destructive potential is so immense, and let us see this fact very clearly. To destroy, you don't need much intelligence. And if you are desperate, you are ready to do anything. People going with the approach knowing that they are going to be killed, but they are going into the destructive process because they feel desperate. They don't see any other way. So provoking this kind of desperation and blind reaction in anyone is not going to bring solutions. We have to see what way to answer, what way to support understanding, what way to give visions of coexistence, what way to give support that everybody feels that they are accepted, they are respected, they are considered. And that is how we create a basis for a healthy human coexistence. And when you look carefully, we have everything in this planet to be able to live beautifully together. Just the other day we were in a cafe and there was an elderly woman. She was very carefully considering, and she was saying she cannot understand why people cannot live together peacefully. Why cannot people see that it is possible to come together and live in a good way together? Yes, when you are simple, when you are not trapped in your roles and projections, when you are not clinging to your so-called comfort zones and pride and prejudices, then in your openness to see the reality you will see. Everyone needs to be considered, everybody needs to be understood, everybody needs to be respected. Everybody has come here because life has wanted them to be here. Everyone is as unique as you. Once this becomes your understanding from your own inner consideration and inquiry, that will have a alive dynamism coming through that. Your whole energy process will change, your way to interact with others will change, and that is the hope. And when I hear people like that consciously considering, expressing, I say, oh, people are starting to look, people are starting to consider. Because as more and more people consider and see that we need to seek consciously a way to come together and to live together in peace, in love, with respect to the way of life, to respect to the creation and what we can carefully call the Creator. Those who have this consideration that there is something deeper than what is obvious, those who start inquiring that there is something which I need to understand more deeply than how it appears to me, they will inquire and move in the right direction. And that is how more and more people need to bring their energy process into a new quality. And that will change all these hardening processes where the extreme parties are reacting blindly And people are getting more and more hard, more and more senseless and hopeless in their way of going, because their understanding is not based on what really is in a deeper sense. They are only projecting through their conditioned way of looking. So it is an individual process, and that is what will also bring developments in the global process. But you cannot forget the individual process and then try to manage the global challenges as if it is somewhere outside you. It is somebody else who has to be responsible for you. No. If you are courageously honest to look, you will see everybody is manifesting their energy every moment. If we are conscious, we give the energy more in the direction of understanding and love towards a graceful and peaceful way of being with each other. But if we are not conscious, if we are not going carefully, if we are just following our blind, conditioned way of reacting, we are letting the energy go automatically to get trapped in negativity, in anger, in bitterness, in hate, in violence, in revenge. And that is not an answer. That is an automatic, unconscious, blind reaction. So we have to make ourselves free from the inner blindness by considering it all very carefully and allow this room for our intelligence and creative potential, allow room for imagination and fantasy to answer to these challenges. And that will make a big, big difference. I've been considering to take an initiative in this direction to create a framework for a summit for humanity and coexistence based on deeper consideration of the reality, where people from all walks of life, whether they are people from religious background, from political background, from scientific background, from any cultural, any deeper sensibility, from people who are artists, people who are having social considerations in deeper way, everywhere people who are ready to look and consider and see that we need to approach the challenges in a different way, come together and share this understanding, share this vision, and find ways to bring it into visibility for more and more people. To communicate creatively, to share, to bring understanding, to bring insights that it is easy to destroy, but it is not easy to be creative. It is easy to go in a self-destructive process, but it needs initiative and courage and understanding to bring in a healthy and intelligent way of living into manifestation. When you start taking care of it in your life in an individual way, you are contributing directly and indirectly for bringing about a more healthy and harmonious coexistence where there is mutual respect and orientation to peace in this world. That is why when I am doing all the things which we are doing here, I am aware of it. And that is also the sense behind emphasizing on the individual initiative to consider and understand life, one's own reality and the way of the nature more deeply. So let us see how we can individually take initiative and contribute, and perhaps this perspective of the summit comes into the consideration of more people, and it will create also a certain kind of chain process of understanding and initiatives. But whether it immediately is visible or not, When you take the initiative individually to consider and understand yourself more deeply and bring about healthy insights and transformative process, your life will become more fulfilling. Your life you will find has a deeper sense becoming visible to you. You see that you are part of the wonder of life, you are part of the mystery, and you are not here as a stranger. You are here because life has wanted you to be here. And then you will also see that it is the case with everybody. In the Upanishads, there is a very beautiful statement which is very valuable to consider. But there is a saying that even if a leaf of grass is missing, the whole existence will thirst for it. What it tries to imply is not even a blade of grass is accidentally here. Everything has its sense, everything has its purpose. We may not be able to understand it, and looking the way we are used to look in terms of utility and our own conditioning, we may not see it. But in a deeper observation, when you are looking without projecting, when you are looking in a direct way, when you learn to look without being burdened from your conditioning and from the past, you will see what a blessed reality, what a greatly intelligent and wondrous process we are in. Then you also see that everything which we are taking for granted cannot be taken for granted, because that you can see, your seeing is not to be taken for granted. That you can hear, don't take it for granted. You can walk, you can run, you can dance, you can sing, you can celebrate, you can feel, you can have emotions. Don't take anything for granted. The more you consider consciously, the more you realize what deep, wondrous process we are in, and how much intelligence is behind every little aspect of this life process. When it becomes your own direct experiential understanding, what I am saying is only to invite you to look and consider more deeply, because if you just agree with me or disagree with me without considering, it's both blind. But rather than just agreeing or disagreeing, consider carefully, apply your understanding into practice. And when that becomes your own experiential understanding, that is the answer. That is where you find all the deeper interconnected factors for your own perception. So see this unique chance we have, unique opportunity we have, and also the unique responsibility we have as a human being. And we need to understand it rightly and live it. It is high time.
A lot more questions to be answered.
Right after this.
You are listening to the Life Surfing Podcast on Spotify.
Welcome back to the Life Surfing Podcast. We continue with some more questions.
If no questions are there in anyone, we will. Is there any questions in anyone here from elsewhere? So if no questions are there, we'll sit the next 30 minutes just being wakeful and present to all what is, without trying to change anything, without trying to hold to anything. That's what I mean by learning to look without projecting. That is the sense what can become one's own experiential understanding. That is the sense behind such an orientation. So be wakeful, be intensely present, but not trying to change anything, not trying to control anything, not trying to get rid of anything, not interfering with anything. Whatever thoughts, whatever feelings, whatever undercurrent factors are arising in you, see it all, feel it all, let it arise, let it also pass by. So in this way, look at all what life is revealing to you and let it become a deepening of your consciousness and understanding. With this orientation, with closed eyes, we sit the next half hour.
The Life Surfing Podcast will be back next week. In the meantime, make sure that you're following us right here on Spotify.